Welcome to the Makor Podcast, where insightful conversations unfold at the intersection of teaching, learning, and parenting. Join us as we dive into the dynamic world of education and family life, exploring the challenges, triumphs, and everything in between. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or someone navigating both roles, this podcast is a valuable space for learning, reflection, and community. On the Makor Podcast, we will tackle the tough questions, celebrate successes, and offer guidance on the unique joys and trials of raising and educating the next generation. From the halls of Catskill Day School here in South Florida, today we sit down with Jewish music superstar Mordechai Shapiro. Welcome, everyone. We have the privilege of having in our building today the one, the only Mordechai Shapiro, or otherwise known as Mordy Shap.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Mordechai. Welcome. I think it's safe to say that you are the Jewish music sensation today with the children and with the adults. And, you know, we want to talk a little bit about your journey to how you got to where you are today, and maybe a little bit about our history, because I get the question all the time, why are you in the Lecha video? You noticed the picture on the wall when you came in with the dancers. And why was that filmed at Hank? So I'm going to just set it up and I'm going to let you talk. So we needed a music teacher when I was the head of school at Hank in West Hempstead. And Barbara Deutsch, the associate principal, who I think you're related to through marriage, said, I got a guy in Israel. He's doing some odd jobs there. He might want to move if we give him a job. I was like, how am I going to do this? He lives in Israel. So back then there was no Zoom, but there was Skype. Remember those days?
Yeah, of course.
Skype? So I remember Skyping you. I think you were in a machsan somewhere, in some storage room.
I was in the kitchen.
I don't know. It looked like a machsan to me. But don't tell your wife then. I don't know. And I remember saying, this guy has a lot of chen, and I'm going to take a shot and say, if I offer you a contract, are you going to move? And you said yes. I said, I don't believe him. I sent you a contract, and you moved to America, and you worked at Hank as a music teacher for 5 years, inspiring children, teachers, and families. So, take us back to those days.
So it's tough. Where do I start from? First of all, it's great to spend time with you. You know, since you moved out to Florida, we don't see each other as much, but it's really special to connect. So I guess I can start the story from there. I got married young. I don't know who knows my story and who doesn't, so I won't take too much time on all the details, but I got married young. I met my wife actually in high school. And then we went to yeshiva. She went to seminary. We got married when I was basically on my 20th birthday. We moved to Israel because that was where we wanted to be. We made Aliyah, Nefesh B'Nefesh, the whole thing. We were there for 3 years. I was doing a whole bunch of different things. I would say I kind of moved a little bit prematurely, even though I don't really love that word, because obviously it was all part of Hashem's plan. Although today, if somebody asked me about moving to Israel, I would recommend having a plan, having a job in place, having your finances in order. And I was young and newlywed, and we just wanted to go. And we knew that once we started having kids in America, it would be tough to make Aliyah. Long story short, we moved. We had our first baby. We had our second baby. I was teaching at a school for children with autism for most of the day, and then I was tutoring American yeshiva students at night. I was out of the house at 7 a.m., back at home at about 11 p.m., not making ends meet. It was a very fulfilling life, but it was also very tough. I didn't see my kids. I didn't see my wife. So after a few years, my wife said, that's it. I was also dabbling a little bit in my keyboard playing, one-man band. I don't know how I somehow managed to put together some money for a keyboard and 2 speakers.
Musical Morty.
And people, allowed me to do some jobs there. It wasn't taken off. So Barbara Deutsch, who you mentioned, she's the mother-in-law of my brother Josh, among 4 of my brothers all live in Yerushalayim. So one of my brothers, Josh, his mother-in-law is Barbara. She worked with you. She found out that I was maybe thinking of coming back to America. So she reached out. We had a meeting on Skype. I was sitting in a kitchen where was my office at the time. Long story, not for now. And you guys offered me the position, and we accepted.
Greatest move we ever made.
It was a very special time I had at Hank. And I'm so grateful for all those years. It was really the beginning of the of my music career in America.
So you and I have had this discussion very often that today schools offer a great education. You have to, otherwise you can't stay in the business. And you come to an open house and everyone says we offer a great education in general studies, Judaic studies, and they have all the fab labs and everything. But we wonder how inspired the children are. And here you're in a position where it was becoming a little bit difficult for Jewish children to connect to Jewish music. And you come on the scene, and as evident today, you being here today, that the kids gravitate to you. Does it ever hit you that, boy, I'm doing something I love, but more importantly, I'm inspiring children to love to keep mitzvot through the words in your songs and want to sing these songs and be happy all the time? Do you ever stop and take that all in? What this has become?
So I'd love to say that was my goal from the get-go. Honestly, from the get-go, when I moved back from Israel, I just needed to make a living. I had 2 kids, and then quickly our third came, and I needed to make a parnasa. I loved music, and if I can make money doing what I love, it's like best case scenario. The power of hashpa or influence came later. It came through feedback, and I myself was completely. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe some of the feedback that I was getting. I mean, just a few off the top of my head, people in COVID that lost people, that lost their father, and they said the only thing they can listen to is Hakol Mishamayim. Everything is from Hashem. Or Eino Milvado, and that it's only Him, it's only Hashem. And this is what I cry to every day. And I said, really, I was almost like Eino Milvado is a pop song, or Hakol Mishamayim. I could never imagine that these songs, or Biyachad, somebody told me they listened to my song Biyachad. They didn't talk to somebody that they had a fight with for 10 years. They were inspired by listening to one of my songs to call up an old buddy and make amends. I can't make that up. I can't make that up. So when you hear those stories, it lights me up. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a platform here that's bigger than I ever imagined. So that makes me double down on my efforts, on the messages that I want to put out there, because it's tough. I like singing. I enjoy music. I can make a living. Who would think that I can change lives? Even still, I'm still embarrassed to think that I'm a leader. I'm inspire people. Lately, just to talk current events, when October 7th. And all the tragedies that have been going on. And I melted. Personally, I just completely fell into depression, which many of us did. And so many people were like, we need you to put out music. And I was like, music now? People are at war. You want music? It's so cheap. What am I going to do with music? And people said, you don't know. You don't know what you do. You don't know how important it is. People wake up. The kids wake up. We dance around you. Motzei Shabbos, the pizza parties with your music, you light up, you light. So I realized that there is an important part of my job. I try to take it seriously. Try not to take it too seriously, because I don't want to fall into getting full of myself or chas v'shalom ego. But I try to do my best. I try to use the platform to the best of my ability and inspire.
So let's talk about that, because that's one of the things people admire about you, that you've been able to stay grounded. Sometimes in this industry it's very difficult. The challenges that are presented to musicians is overwhelms them. And I know how much of a husband and family man and father you are. And just last night you were checking on your kids and calling home and talking about your kids. We spent most of the evening speaking about your family. So what keeps you grounded? Because for those of you who don't know, Morty does live on the edge a little bit. One particular story I'll have to mention. Our poor kindergarten teachers. They were supposed to have their kindergarten graduation, and Morty, of course, had a gig in L.A. the day before and was taking the red eye. And we were tracking him on the flight at Kennedy, coming down to school, and he storms in as the children go on stage. And, you do live on the edge, that's okay.
You don't even know how many text messages I got from all the Moras the night before my flight. Did you catch your flight? Where are you in your flight? Did you land yet? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you balance?
So that was interesting. That was really, just that specifically was when I realized that teaching was, unfortunately, I loved teaching. I'm going to get back to the family in a second, but that was when I realized that I just couldn't juggle both. And I had to choose. My career started to take off. I was starting to travel more. And of course, thank you from day one. Even when I was a nobody, I came in from Israel. I was just teaching music. And you said, I believe in you. You're going to be something big. Don't forget about us. Don't forget about us when you make it big.
And
I
always
thought it was a joke when you would say it. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But that was when I realized I just couldn't do both, because I didn't want to come in to teach the kids exhausted or tired, because who wants to do that? I wanted to give them my full energy. When I started traveling, I couldn't do it as much. But to get back to your question, how do I stay grounded? So it's funny, I met you in West Hempstead. West Hempstead, for all of you who don't know, and I'm sure many of you do know, West Hempstead is about 15, 20 minutes away from the Five Towns. It's in Long Island. Merrick, Plainview, for those of you that know the Long Island. It's a very down-to-earth, beautiful community that my wife grew up in. So it's not Stam that I ended up teaching there. My wife is a very down-to-earth kind of girl from actually a Moroccan family. They do not like spotlight at all, which I think was a gift, a blessing in disguise, that my wife doesn't really like my kids on Instagram. She certainly will not put herself on any of my platforms. So it keeps me grounded a little bit. I am very connected to my rabbi who lives in Israel. His name's Rav Eliyahu Alfasi. He was the Talmud of my previous rabbi, Rav Avram Brandwein, who I've spoke about on some podcasts, coming from the Bala Sulam, who was a parish on the Zohar. They learned Kabbalah and Hasidus and Pnimius and some of the deep subjects of the Torah, which very much connects to me. What is our purpose in this world? What is our duty in this world? And not something like I was just schmoozing with one of the Rebbeim here before, not something to just reflect on once in a while, on Yom Kippur, think about how I can be better, or Tisha B'Av, or an inspiring Kumzitz, but every day I think about what am I doing on this world, and it's intense, and it could be heavy sometimes, but that's what we got to do, because there's so much. Again, just to reflect on what happened recently, we know Hashem is good. Toiv Hashem lakol v'racham aval kol ma'asav, and there's tons of psukim and perushim and gemaras and tehillim that say Hashem is good, and yet we go through this world and we see things that are not good. Hashem, they say you're good, but October 7th happened, and I don't see you. Where are you? So I've made it my job to reflect on this every day. Hashem, I know you're good. I know you're good. Let me see it. So I pray for it. I daven for it, and I ask for it. I ask for clarity, because if we know He's good, but we're not feeling His goodness, so then that means that there's a lot of things that are covering our eyes. We're blind to Hashem's goodness. So I try to reflect on that every day, and that helps me, I think, stay grounded, trying to just stay connected to the source, trying to find and search for Hashem's goodness always.
In a minute, I want to discuss your parents, because I've heard you speak so fondly of them. But I just want to finish up your point about having a mentor. And we spoke about this last night together. and I've said this often, people hear this from me. I hear from psychologists all the time that say that these clients or patients that they have, patients, always tell them, when these professionals say, how have you kept it together? I know you need therapy and we're going to work with you, but you should not be alive today, like based on the things that you went through in your life. And they keep mentioning teachers. I had a great Rebbe, I had a great Mora, friends or whatever, family structure. And you're mentioning that, when I asked you what's keeping you grounded, you said that you're connected to a Rebbe. So another example of the importance of a teacher in a child's life.
It's so important. And I honestly, I was schmoozing with you last night. I don't know where that passion to be connected to a Rebbe comes from, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of where it's that Hashem gave it to me, I guess. I don't know, because it's just so a part of me. It's so natural that in this dark world, in this confusing world, what do I know? I need to turn to somebody that knows more than me, that has more experience, that's learned more, that's dealt with more,
and believes in you,
that believes in me. It was actually my first Rebbe, Rav Avram Brandwein, before he passed. He was the one that told me to move back to Israel. I went to him when you offered me the position, and I said, I can go to America. I don't really want to leave Israel. And he said, you'll go, you'll be successful, and you'll come back, Mitzvah Shem, at the right time. You'll be back in Israel. You need somebody. You need somebody to rely on.
Amazing. And where do your parents fall there? Because I've heard you talk very highly of them. If you had to point to one thing and say, this is what I got from my parents, that I think about all the time, that I'm instilling in my own kids, and that's made me the father that I am.
I mean, that's a loaded question. A few things that are sticking out to me. My father did whatever he needed to do to support his family, always with a smile. I'm the youngest of 7. Finances didn't come easy. My father drove for Muncie Trails, big bus company from Muncie. He drove Muncie Trails for 30 plus years. He did the morning run and a night run, and during the day he worked in the city. He used to be in the shmata business, and then later on he was leasing cars. I mean, I can go into it, but I don't know how much I can speak of it. But he did what he needed to do to get his kids through school, to support us, to give us what we needed, to not make us feel like we were lacking. So I am forever grateful for my father. He's my hero. He taught me what it means to do what you need to do, no matter what. When I was living in Israel, I was actually very close to working at a bagel store between jobs. Not that there's anything wrong with working at a bagel store, but I did have higher aspirations. But you got to do what you got to do to support your family. You got to put your ego aside, and you got to do what you got to do. And my mother, I would say, the biggest thing I learned from my mother is commitment. From the youngest age, when I joined Miami Boys Choir, she taught me, not me being committed, her being committed to driving me to Brooklyn every Sunday, 2.5 hours in traffic, sitting there for 3 hours of rehearsal, and then driving home another 2.5, 3 hours in traffic, was her whole Sunday. And she committed. She committed to me and my brother Duvi to be a part of that. And I learned commitment from her. There was no missing rehearsal. There was no missing a basketball game as a kid. Oh, you have a birthday party? I'm sorry. You're committed to the team. You're going to practice. You're not feeling well? Okay, take some cough medicine and go. So that was tremendous for me for the rest of my life, to just say, when I'm doing something, and now I try to give that over to my kids, when you're in, you're in. So my daughter the other day, she said, I have gymnastics, and my friends decided last minute they're going to get some pizza. I said, you're preparing for a gymnastics thing? You can't miss it. And she's like, I always go to gymnastics. I want to go for pizza. I said, if you're in, you're in. You got to be committed. You got to see it through. And there's actually, now that I'm speaking it out, actually, I'm seeing a common denominator between both my parents, between the commitment and never giving up and doing what you need to do and seeing it through. So between the two of them and the love that they always gave me and my siblings, I'm grateful. And now they're the biggest fans. I mean, it's a little embarrassing, but as most people think it's cute. My parents crash weddings of mine that they're not invited to. So if I'm at your wedding and I'm singing and you see my parents and you're wondering what they're doing there, they're just there to see me. They come to the chuppah, they dress up.
You acknowledge them? You say,
of course. They come with their phones, they sit, they watch, and they get a lot of nachas, and they come to as many shows as they can, and I'm grateful.
It's a common denominator that I heard when describing your mom and your dad was another topic that I speak about all the time, and I'll continue talking about it until it penetrates, myself more than anybody else, because I always say I could run a school with 700 kids. It's my own 5 that I can't manage. But that's resiliency. And I see that, being around you all those years, continuing to be around you, I saw the resiliency that you have. There was a day where you could not say hello. You could not mouth the word hi. And you had a big time wedding that night. And those people wanted you. They didn't want anybody else. You could have called another musician and you said, I got 12 hours left. I'm going to figure this out. And somehow you went and belted it. And I don't know what you did. I don't know what your rituals are.
Yeah.
But, you said, I'm not missing this wedding. And you did it.
So when I started singing, I started networking, trying to figure out, what do I do? I just started making phone calls. I called everybody that I can get a hold of their number. And many people said, you got to do voice lessons. And I said, okay. I never really understood what the significance was. I started taking voice lessons. I went from one teacher, and then I graduated from him. I went to another for a bunch of years, and I've been taking voice lessons now still weekly for about probably 15 years. I'm still a little raspy, but that's just me. That's the voice that God gave me. I used to be upset about it. And I used to say, God, like, why? Why you give me a raspy voice? And I realized this is me. This is my chiddush. There's so many gorgeous, clear voices out there. And I used to beg Hashem, give me his voice. And then I realized, Hashem, you gave me this. This is my tool. It's a little raspy. It's a little different. It's a little bit more edgy, or however you want to refer to it. So now I'm grateful. But the voice lessons was tremendous, and the resilience, and it's not just voice lessons. And I try to help out aspiring singers now. I do my best to respond to as many as I can. It's hard to teach resilience. I got that from my parents, as I mentioned. You need to if you want to be a singer, if you really want to do anything, and you want to be great at it, then you got to put in the work. So voice lessons for an hour a week is nice. It's not enough. I did my voice lesson once a week, sometimes twice a week. And then I did it every day, an hour in the morning, an hour at night. And it's not easy to just stand against a wall and do, and do your ritual, and then your steam, and then you continue with the voice lessons. And then there are mornings where you wake up, either you're sick, you have the cold, you have something, or I'm just exhausted from traveling on red eyes, and you wake up and I can't talk. And I have a wedding that night, and I used to stress. I used to cry. Sometimes I would cry.
I was there.
I would say, I don't, Hashem, what do you want from me? You gave me this job, yeah. and you just give me my voice, and I couldn't. And then I would relax. I would just go back to my voice lessons, my steam. I would take a steam shower, my tea, and all my exercises that I learned from all my teachers that I'm so grateful for. And I'd get back in the place, and then a little adrenaline kicks in, and then Yishtabach Shemo, Hashem would help me.
So there's no doubt that Raquel, your wife, is your rock. I mean, you've openly spoken about that. You always speak about it. So the two of you together are working on, raising your children. And you just said resiliency is not something that you could teach. Do you feel that your children are picking this up by just being around and, the way you two grew up?
So I feel like I'm not the one that should be giving chinuch lessons here. You're the master at chinuch.
I'm not a master.
But I think the only thing that's coming to mind is actions speak louder than words, right? So I know we say that, it's such a cliche, but that's the truth. I mean, if I learn in the morning, I'm part of a chabura in Israel, and the way the scheduling works out, it's pretty early. And when I have gigs, it's very hard. So I can either tell my kids, you have to do this or you have to do this, or just let them see me doing what I'm doing.
And
when they know that they went to sleep because I was on a flight somewhere or I was at a wedding, and my daughter, let's say I walk in at 2 a.m. and one of my kids happens to be awake and they see me, and then they see me when they're going to the bus at 6:30, they see me learning. They get it. They get it. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. So we try to teach by action, because words are cheap. Words are cheap. Our kids see right through us. And my wife is the same. I mean, she's a doer and wants nothing. She wants no thank yous or publicity. Listen, my job naturally has a lot of praise. There's a lot of light. There's a lot of messages, a lot of emails, and it's great. It's beautiful. And I appreciate every word. People sometimes send me emails and say, yeah, you probably get this all the time. Probably doesn't mean anything. And I say, you don't know what it means. You don't know what it means. It's tremendous. I got an email yesterday. Maybe I should pull it up and just try to find some of these beautiful things. I don't want to hold anybody up here, but let's see what I could find here.
So after getting this all the time, you say everyone that you get still means something to you.
Absolutely. Here, she says, I'm not going to say the name. Oh, it's a him. I guess I just want to, it just opens. I guess I just want to say thank you. Not sure if you actually read these, but I'm a believer it's worth putting things out in the world. People should know the good. As we are surrounded by so much negativity, people need to know the good that they do. My son, to be 6 years old, is obsessed with you. It's the sweetest and most precious thing. We come from an observant household, but we are not. Although we are very much believe in the importance of Yiddishkeit and our identity as Jews, we send Chabad, whatever. It's a long email, and he just speaks about they wake up to me and go to sleep to my music every night, and how grateful they are for my music, and I should keep it up. And I mean, that is amazing to me, because I have tough days too. I have tough days that I'm exhausted, and I wonder, if I'll have the passion to keep doing this forever. Hopefully I will. Hopefully Hashem will continue to just give me the energy. People always say, how do you have the energy? I say, I don't know. Hashem gives me the energy, So I was talking about, my wife doesn't have these. She doesn't get these emails. She just does her chasadim in quiet. So she's a much bigger tzaddikus than I am. I learned from her.
We'll make sure not to cut this part out.
Honey, if you're listening, no, I'm just joking. But resilience and
it's incredible.
I don't know where we were.
So many kids are looking up to you. What would be your advice to a child who says, the Mordechai Shapiros are 1 in a million. Excuse the 1 in a million. What chizuk would you give that child to say, listen, if you take it seriously and you do the things that you did, to go for the voice lessons and to be inspirational and think of words and try to put songs that mean something to the world, what would be the advice that you would give them? Because you came from doing these odd jobs and, the way you described it and you did it. You're an inspiration to these kids.
I think there's 2 answers. There's a spiritual answer, and then there's the, I guess, more practical answer. Spiritual answer is Hashem's light is infinite, and He created all of us with a spark of His light, right? He gave us all neshama with a purpose. We spoke about purpose before, how we all have a unique purpose, because otherwise, why would Hashem give us our neshama, right? If there's enough neshamas, if there's enough tzaddikim in the world, why does he need more of us? Because Hashem wants all of us to bring our specific light to the world, and we can't forget that. Each and every one of us has a light that we need to bring to the world. It's not just a nice fluffy thing that we hear, and it's our obligation to use our tools to develop them and give them back to the world, right? So that's the spiritual answer. The more practical answer is, because people ask me all the time, people send me videos and say, can you let me know I'm an aspiring singer? And I'll be honest, some of them are really not great. I'm not going to tell somebody not to go after their dream. I can't do that. Even if I felt like it was the responsible thing and say, listen, Tzaddik, singing's not for you. I'm sure you have other koiches. I don't have the heart to do that. Just because, partially is because when I started out singing, honestly, if I play you clips of me singing from 15 years ago, 17 years ago, I really was not great. Yes, I was good with harmonies. I was musical. My vocal tone, my vibrato, my range, my stamina, strength, all these things that I got from voice lessons, I did not have it. But I believed. So it's hard, like how do you know when to stop? In any, you want to be a great teacher, you want to be a great singer, you want to be an engineer, you want to be whatever it is, you want to be a rabbi, you want to be a pulpit rabbi, how do you know when it's just not your tafkid? I don't know the answer to that. I guess the answer, I would go back to having a leader in your life that you trust with your life. And that's not a simple thing. Having somebody you look up to that can answer those questions for you. Some people I'll try to say, maybe give it a year. Give it a year of voice lessons. See if it's changing. See if you're getting more events. Right. See if you have a family to support. It depends where you're at in your life. If you're 18 and you're a bacher and you have nobody to support, so then you could have 2-3 years of giving it a chance and see if it goes. If it's not going, eventually I'll just try to hint to the fact that you're going to need to support your family. If it's not going, it's not going. You have to use maybe I'll try to sensitively suggest that maybe they can use their koiches for something else. But before that, you need to give it your absolute all. Yeah. Your absolute all before you're ready to hang anything up. I mean,
it's amazing. We're coming to a close soon because you're on a tight schedule today. Just a couple closing questions here and maybe a final comment from you. The first music I heard from you was Ani Maamin, and that's somewhere on YouTube. And you guys should look it up. It's fantastic. I was in tears. I mean, of course, the video there itself was pretty descriptive of all the tragedies, mm-hmm. that the Jewish people have gone through. But, that was the moment when I said, here's somebody who's not just going to get on stage and is not in it for the fame. He has a message to get across. So that was my moment when I said, I heard Ani Maamin, and I said, and then of course Char Mitzvah came. And I think that, that's what blew it up. So you never know. You had one great, idea to get that Ani Maamin across. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that may have propelled you, because after that you became very serious.
Right. I'm trying to think where the inspiration, it's already going back so many years. Ani Maamin, when I wrote that song, I remember where I wrote it. It was actually one of the times I was living in West Hempstead. See, that West Hempstead keeps coming back. I was living in West Hempstead. I think maybe before we moved to Israel. We were getting ready to make Aliyah. And we moved into with my in-laws for a few months. We did that actually a few times throughout my marriage. And I was reflecting on all that we as the Jewish people have gone through. And I don't know, somehow Hashem just gave me that melody. When you write songs, so sometimes there's just like, often you'll hear this from composers. Sometimes there's just a shot of fire. Hashem just sends you the melody. I've had that with a bunch of my songs. Ani Mamin was one of those. Einod Milvado was, many of them really. In the middle of COVID, when I was I thought my career was over. We thought, in the beginning, we thought it was nothing. It was like, okay, we'll stay home for a few weeks. And then when it started getting serious and everything shut down, we singers thought like, okay, how are we gonna make a living? We got to figure something out. And I was in a dark place, and I was just begging Hashem to give me some inspiration. I was crying by my piano, just banging. He said, "Einod milvado." He sent me these words. I don't know where it came from. Hashem just sent it to me. So you have those moments of inspiration, and you almost, that. I mean, I don't know how to say because they happen to have become successful. So I'm grateful. You just know that they're real. You know that they're moments of siyata d'shmaya and gifts from Hashem.
What hopeful message would you give to parents who look at their kids in second, third, fourth grade? They go, I don't know, he's not davening. He doesn't sit with me in shul. That doesn't seem like he's, and they're only in second, third, fourth grade. What message can we tell them that it's going to click one day? There's going to come a time where, it's a teacher, something that they're learning, a song. I always try to give them some sort of chizik that don't judge your children, in second, third, fourth grade. It's a whole process, as you said, and you just, this is what we talked about today.
Right.
Your journey, my journey, how.
So I have 5 kids, 4 girls, 1 boy. And my son is now in 3rd grade, and I'm not forcing him to come to davening. I was thinking about it, but I actually asked his Rebbe. He said, it's not a good idea to force. I know it's very specific, but more klali, more general, is talk about Hashem with your kids. Shabbos needs to be Shabbos. Shabbos needs to be Shabbos. I'm exhausted. I sing for a living, right? So on Shabbos, I'm going to come and sometimes it's not so simple for me to sing Zmiros. I'm going to do it. My kids need to have a Shabbos experience. We need to go through the Parsha and I don't remember who I heard this from. Mommy's preparing the kitchen and fathers need to prepare for the Shabbos table. I know it's hard to look through the Parsha. For me, sometimes, Shnai Mikra, whatever, it's not always so simple. But if you want your kids to have a meaningful Shabbos or meaningful life in general, then they have to see that you believe in this thing that is Hashem. That it's not just something we talk about. Hashem is here, Hashem is there. Do you know Hashem?
You spoke about relationship. People don't understand what does it mean to have a relationship with Hashem?
Right. So our kids need to believe. They need to see it to be true in us. They need to see that when we talk about Hashem, it's real. It's coming from us, and we believe it. And we were taught it from our parents, and that there's a Masorah, there's a tradition that we believe in. We buy into it. And when times are tough, we can turn to Hashem.
That's great advice. Morty, is there any way you could tell us a sneak peek of something special you're working on? Maybe keep the details out of it, but what's the next big thing for Mordechai Shapiro?
This is actually the first time that I'm mentioning this. I'm working on a new album now. The war did put things on hold just because emotionally I wasn't able to be fully present in like producing music. But I'm working on a new album now. The messages are going to be about Geula, which so many of us feel like it's
on
around
everybody's mind.
It's around the corner.
Everyone's
It has to
talking
be.
about
It has to be around the corner, which is so beautiful that we're all at this time. What's going on in Eretz Yisrael specifically with completely secular Jews, also in America, that for they don't even know why. Just this tragedy, this war, and they want to start putting on tefillin. They want to start connecting to Hashem. They want to start keeping Shabbos. And Neshama is just speaking for itself. It's jumping out of its body now. So I wanna sing about this.
That's great.
I want to sing about personal redemption, finding our light, bringing out our light, our mission. I want to speak about Achdus. I want to speak about how it shouldn't be that we should only find Achdus through darkness, which I think is a message that a lot of people have been seeing through the war. Why does it have to be such tragedy that makes us realize that whether you're modern Orthodox or Hasidish or Haredi or Sephardi or secular, if you're a Jew, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. We're all one. We're all one mamish. We're all from the same source. Hashem gave us all our mission to light up the world with our neshamas, but we're all connected at the source for real. But sometimes it takes tragedy for us to see that.
Unfortunately.
So that's sad. So one of my songs is going to be about praying that it shouldn't take tragedy to see that. We should see each other's worth, and we should see each other's godless and gold inside without tragedy. We should see everybody's light without tragedy, and continue to just spread love.
Get that out sooner than later. We're waiting for that.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, what's it like to have the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the world?
No. That's a different Shapiro.
Oh, that's right. Mordechai, it has been an honor to have been your friend, to continue being your friend, and a privilege to have been part of your journey. I said to you all the time, the nachas that I have, seeing the amazing things that you're doing. My bracha to you is that you should continue to inspire people. And thank you for being here today.
Amen. Likewise to you. You don't even know how much your chizik, your inspiration throughout my years at Hank means to me. From my heart. I know it's like kind of weird because like we're friends, and it's like friends don't always do this to each other. But for real, from my heart, thank you for believing in me.
My pleasure.
And even if you didn't believe in me, you said you believed in me, and that was enough. No, but for real, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your mentorship. You were my boss, but never acted like my boss. It was always treated me with love, like a friend. So thank you.
It's mutual. I mean, to blast your music in my car for 5-6 years in a row, that meant something to me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mordechai.